I'm Marty. Yeah, I guess for those who don't know me, I went to Paly, graduated in 2007. Then I went to Stanford, studied computer science. Then I spent 3 years being miserable working on my own startup, and then our startup recently got acquired by Dropbox. So I think what I want to start talking about is I want to spend some. Well, first of all, I'm very glad to be here, and it's great to see so many people here. That's awesome for you guys. But I think the thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about mistakes, because I think we've heard a lot of success stories, but we made a lot of mistakes. I certainly made a lot of mistakes, especially the last few years. When we first started our startup, three of us, we slept in a garage together, and we ate nothing but IKEA meatballs for an entire summer, and we didn't pay ourselves. And the running joke was that, so every 2 weeks we'd go to IKEA to buy more meatballs. And so we'd go to IKEA, and we'd get there, and at IKEA, we'd be like, okay, we're here, so we must take advantage of the time, go upstairs, buy some food from the cafeteria. So we'd go upstairs to the cafeteria, and at IKEA you can get kind of the meatball special, right? So it's $3, you can get 7 meatballs, you get mashed potatoes, you get some lingonberry jam. Everyone's eating knows what I'm talking about. So we get that, and you can pay $1 for 6 extra meatballs. And we didn't pay that $1. The running joke was that when we raised funding, we would be able to buy ourselves 6 extra meatballs. So the reason that I wanted to share, so eventually we raised funding, things ended up going decently, now I'm at Dropbox, etc. But the reason why I wanted to share that story is because that's motivation. And the reason that that's important in high school is, in high school, I did not have motivation. I think the difference between me now and what I wish I had in high school is I never had vision. I guess the correction is I had motivation. Is that in many ways, the start was very hard, but for me, high school, middle school, elementary school, was much harder because I had no vision of what I wanted to do. I was just going through the motions and just doing things just to get them done. And just because I wanted to not fail. And I think that, everyone's talked a lot about intrinsic motivation, but the power of intrinsic motivation is it can make you do things. It can make you do things like sleep in a garage for an entire summer. That's really powerful. I didn't understand that when I was in high school. And it's hard to say, oh yeah, you just had it. And so I guess the second topic is kind of about Asian parents. And so yeah, I mean, my parents are Asian. It's kind of funny because everyone always I think there's all these characteristics of Asian parents. I think for me, the one most important characteristic about my parents is that they made me terrified of failure. They made failure completely not acceptable. And that was really it was surprising that ended up being a strength, because I've just talked about how failure is something that happens, and etc. But because I didn't have a lot of intrinsic motivation, that actually empowered me to be able to do a lot of things that otherwise would not have done. And I'll just share a quick story with you, sort of about this. Is that when I was a junior in high school, I was taking the BC calculus class. That class is really hard. I'm sure a lot of you guys are taking it already because you're really smart and Asian. But I spent a lot of time struggling with that class, and I think it was right before the test before the final. I had a 90.1%, so it was right at A- mark. But then we had this big test, and there were 5 multiple choice questions. Each multiple choice question was worth 9% of the test, and I missed 4 of those questions. So I ended up getting a very poor grade in the test, and I ended up coming into the final with an 85%. And I actually, because I was so afraid of failure, I never got to B at all in my life before, and I had the final, and I calculated my grade, and I needed to get an 120% in the final. So like, okay, so I got 120% in the final. The final's not 100%. So the I don't know, the way UBC calculus used to work is that you take, so the final is, it's 100 points, but there's extra credit available as well. So with the extra credit, all the extra credit included, you can actually get 120%. So 120% is the perfect score plus all the extra credit. And so also the way that Paly worked, I'm not sure that's how it works now, but back in the day, we used to have like 2 weeks off. Like we had our winter break before finals. So for that winter break, our family was going to visit some other family in New York. And we planned this trip for a while, and this is something that I knew excited about. And so, we hopped on the plane to go to New York, and I brought with me all of my tests, all of my homeworks, and the calculus book, and another calculus book to New York. And the entire trip in New York, I didn't go out at all. I didn't, so my family went and saw the Statue of Liberty, they saw, Manhattan Building, World Trade Center, whatever. I spent the entire trip in the library, and I redid all my homeworks, redid all the tests, and did all the problems in the calculus book. And so I probably studied for and so, that was probably the hardest I'd ever worked for any single test, but I came back and I got 120% of the test. I later ended up asking that teacher for a recommendation, and I ended up taking the class the next year. I think it was the fear of failure saved my butt in that class, but so I think that's a common fear of failure, and I'm not sure about how I'm doing on time. I think
you have 2 more minutes.
Okay. All right. So I think the most important topic that I wanted to address is video games. So this wasn't talked about by anyone else. Video games are really fun. They're really addictive, and in fact, I've had trouble my entire life with video games. So I think what I want to come back to about video game is the strongest way to fight video games is intrinsic motivation. There are things in your life that you realize life can actually be better than playing games. And yeah, I see someone nodding, scratching their head there. And you start to realize that when you have to make the choice between playing video games and doing other things in your life, that you only get to pick one or the other. And it's really hard. I've always had a lot of trouble playing exercise self-control video games. So what I did, believe it or not, is I wiped off my computer and I installed Linux. So in Linux, you can't play video games because you only have a terminal. So I have a situation where I can't play games, I can't download them, I can't install them, and I just go completely cold turkey and I never play them at all. And that's probably saved me 2 lifetimes already. So with that, and I think there's just a couple thoughts about time management. So it's kind of funny actually, but I recently wrote an essay about what I call time hacking, which is sort of a hacker's approach to time management. But the main thing that I wanted to say about time management is that there are a lot of ways to save small amounts of time, and these are things that people focus on. There are things like focusing on one task, or working an extra 10 hours a day, or sleeping 4 hours by sleeping 15 minutes every 2 hours, or something like that. I think the things that I think about with time management is how do you save big amounts of time? And for me, the way to save the most amount of time is don't spend time doing things you don't want to do. Do the things that you want to do. When I was working at our company, we spent a lot of time doing things that were a complete waste of time, doing them really well. And there was no worse way to waste time than doing something extremely well that you never need to do in the first place. And so I think the thing I think the approach that I think about time management is what are sort of the big wins? How do I save huge amounts of time? How do I do those things? And a lot of that is doing the right things, doing the things that you want to do, getting yourself motivated to get up in the morning. And if you weren't motivated like me, at least being so scared of failing that you can do it anyway. So that's all I got.